Morning, everyone. It's Sean from STK Markets. We've got Southern Cross Gold, Mike Hudson here this morning. There's some big corporate movements happening this week at Southern Cross Gold and Mawson Gold. We've just come back from Christmas. Mike, you've got jewelry spinning, the labs are working, more news flow to come. That stuff before Christmas, that gold was just amazing. Those high-grade hits, it just keeps coming and coming and coming. I mean, you've kilos and kilos of the stuff. It's just amazing. Bigger, better, stronger. But welcome, Mike. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thanks, Sean. Great to be back. There was not much of a moment. Drill rigs are spinning and assay lab didn't stop, and lots of momentum. And once you got that momentum, you don't stop it. So lovely to be back in the public domain.
That's fantastic. It does help when your jewelry owners and the labs have got investments in your company and still holding strong. So you've got all the right things happening there. But we've got a really interesting week happening, which we need to update shareholders on. This has been in process for quite some time. The consolidation of Mawson and Southern Cross Gold into the one entity. Do you want to talk to that and how that's so relevant to existing investors and just the reasons why you've done it?
Yeah, so it's a very fundamental move that has been some time coming, and it's nearly done. Over the next week, you'll see some dramatic changes, and by the end of January, it will be done and dusted. So what are we doing? We're consolidating the two halves, essentially, of Southern Cross, or the Sunday Creek asset. It was 50% owned by the ASX on Southern Cross Gold and essentially 50% owned by Mawson in Canada. Through a scheme of arrangement, we're merging those two companies, and they'll be called, at the end of the day, Southern Cross Gold Consolidated, and it will be a simple, much more investable product rather than having the split ownership. So we're going to bring more eyes to the story. It's going to make it more investable, and just be a simple structure, which has been out there for the last few years because of escrow and then sorting out some of the structuring on how to bring the consolidation together. So simpler story, simpler structure, number one, and then it will be dual listed, number two. We have half our shareholders in North America and half here in Australia, so they both need access and liquidity. And remember that the North American market was the market that enjoyed the benefits of the Fosterville story, which essentially started a whole cycle in Canada and funded a whole cycle with $10 billion of market cap appreciation. So it brought an incredible amount of wealth to the North American market that the Australian market didn't see. And that's only over the last 5 or 6 years. So the Canadians and North Americans understand high-grade Victorian gold without a doubt. So that will benefit, we believe, this story also, and all shareholders. So simplification, more eyes again with the dual listing.
I think it's ironic, Mike. You brought this back to Australia. Southern Cross Gold, you listed on the ASX. The last 2 years, I've always spoken to you, and you're on your way to the airport. You've been in North America, Europe, and that's where you've got the big buying from. But we've had one major issue, and I've seen this with other investments. A lot of the larger institutional investors, which can now invest in Southern Cross because it's over that 500 million market cap, they couldn't invest in you. And I've seen this time and time again because you had a shareholder that had more than 40% of Southern Cross, their mandate stopped them from investing. It was almost 49, 50%. So this structure that you've created moving forward, that eliminates that risk. So there's these whole new institutional long-term investors that can now buy your share. Is that what you're hearing? I mean, that's what I'm hearing from my side. Is the company hearing that information too?
Oh yeah, we've heard it for some time that it was a clunky structure and uninvestable by some institutions. Notwithstanding, we've got about 20% of the register from being institutions, but certainly it was a clunky structure and needed fixing, and that we've done, and we've done it in the most effective, cost-effective, tax-effective way. And it's going to be a big few for everybody involved, because it's been quite the process to put this all together. But simplicity is really the story, and that's really what we've got to.
So just in terms of specifically about the deal, you've got it happening, I believe, next Wednesday. Everything goes through. The shares consolidate. They've got the new. Is the stock code going to change? So people who've got it in their watch list, do they need to update their watch list?
Yeah, so absolutely, the codes will change, the tickers will change. So there's a process. So it essentially happens overnight for Southern Cross shareholders. But let me perhaps just talk about a few key dates. This is still subject to a second court hearing, which occurs at 9:15 a.m. on January the 14th, Tuesday, January the 14th. Subject to that approval, and we're fairly confident that the court will see the benefits of the scheme that they did in the first, and 99% of shareholders or more than approved the scheme. So it is something that we're confident in. That will trigger the scheme, and then on the Wednesday, the 15th of January, will be the last day that Southern Cross Gold, as SXG, trades on the ASX. But on Thursday, the 16th, Mawson in Canada will dual list in Australia through CDIs, and Mawson in Canada will be renamed Southern Cross Gold Consolidated. So on Wednesday, Southern Cross shareholders will trade as SXG. On Thursday, they'll trade as SX2 as CDIs, as the dual listed Southern Cross Gold from Canada. What do shareholders have to do? Essentially nothing. There is a deferred settlement period from that day on Thursday the 16th until Friday the 24th. That means that settlements won't occur for 12 days. You'll be able to buy shares. If you've got a full service broker, you'll be able to sell shares, and it will be broker related as to how actually each shareholder will be able to deal on the market. But there will be no gap in trading between SXG and SX2. Now in Canada, Mawson will halt on Friday, this Friday, and it will be suspended until that Wednesday date in Australia, which will be Tuesday the 14th in Canada, and it will continue trading after that couple of days, 2 or 3 day halt. The renamed Mawson Southern Cross Gold Consolidated will trade as SXGC on the Venture Exchange in Canada. So lots of dates and things happening, but essentially shareholders don't need to do anything from the Southern Cross side in Australia. Computershare has a process, and there's a lot of detail behind that, and we encourage shareholders to talk to us or their brokers if they're confused. But it should happen fairly seamlessly. In Canada, it should happen fairly seamlessly. If you've got your shares with a broker or an institution, you don't have to do anything. If you hold your share certs, which the Canadians still do, then you have to send the certs back to the company, but very few shareholders are in that position. So no gaps in trading, relatively seamless. There is a process where the shares and the balance and Computershare and the registry will be sorting out everything between mid to late January, but by the end of January, it will be all done by Friday the 24th.
Okay, that sounds pretty straightforward. It's all going to be managed by the ASX Computershare. So there'll be ASX announcements, which also talk to the detail for Australian investors. And there was a very comprehensive announcement with Mawson Gold overnight. So there's a lot of data there for shareholders to understand. I'm just quite excited as a shareholder myself in Southern Cross, just that the opportunity this provides to new investors who can't previously have touched the stock but know all about it, now having the ability to buy. So when there's more buyers coming into a share that's had that Santa rally, thankfully that a lot of other shares haven't, it's back to that 380 mark. We're at a very good range in terms of the share price going into this. I see it's boded well for success in the new year. And every couple of weeks, Mike, we always see another announcement coming out. That last one was spectacular. So hopefully through this period, we'll see some more announcements. As you said, the labs are working, the drills are spinning. Nothing really changes from how you've operated things day to day. You're still in charge. You've still got the good drill team. You've still got the labs. You've still got your support staff, your general manager, Lisa. You're all there still working towards it. As an investor, there's really no real risk here. It's all there is upside risk, not downside.
Well, it's very much Southern Cross Gold continuing, and the board as well, as much as management. So yeah, there's not a lot of change in that respect. It's just simplification of structure and dual listing. So no, you're very right there, Sean, and we hit the trifecta in that last 4 or 5 weeks of 2024, where we had knockout results from Christina, from Rising Sun and Apollo at depth, where we're extending mineralization at some of the best results in the project over, well over a kilometre in strike and from near surface right down to nearly a kilometre depth. So it was a great way to end 2024. And let's see how the drills perform in 2025. But internally, we're very confident. We understand the system. We understand how it hangs together. We have SRK, the same team that is running resources at Fosterville and Costerfield, running internal resources and updates for us every month. We've made a very strong commitment to make this big before we narrow it down and drill it out. And that's where we'll see the project pivot this year, as we're very much on path to get it to that key size, which we have quoted. We want to get it to that 3 million ounce aim. And once we get it to that, we'll start focusing on drilling it out for a resource, but never forget that we'll continue making it bigger and have drill rigs expanding as well. So if you like, doubling up on Lassonde curves, if for those who understand the Lassonde curves. So the first discovery will be on one curve, and then we'll bring in new curves on new areas. So the Lassonde curves become additive, and you don't get that dip as you start focusing and drilling out certain areas. You need to keep discovery occurring.
The key message there is fantastic. I do understand Lassonde curve, how it goes up, it has its drop, then it keeps going up again. The reality is you've done this geophysics study as well, which those results are coming out in the first half of this year. You've got the drill results. The key thing that you mentioned before Christmas, you had Sunday Creek, then you've got Christina, you've got Rising Sun, you've got Apollo. Every time you seem to drill, you keep hitting gold. Now, this is only over about a 1 kilometre strike. You've still got 10 kilometres, which is relatively untested. I think you've done a drill hole or two and have hit gold, and you're now doing that geophysics work. So I think you're right. This system that you're trying to build to 3 million ounces or potentially 5 in the future, that's company making, top tier gold company making there. But you've got all these other pockets of brilliance which you can address. So I think Southern Cross is just going to be one that keeps expanding, which can be very, very fruitful over the coming years, not only even months.
It's a very unique system, Sean, globally. It's hitting at hit rates, the 100 gram meter hit rate. We doubled the 100 gram meter hits from 25 to 50 in 2024 with only about nearly 70 kilometers of drilling into this to date. So the hit rates are trending and getting better as we understand the system. We only hope that will continue this year. It's a unique system. There's not many high-grade deposits globally in first world jurisdictions as pre-development projects. And we really are one of a very small handful or less of projects that are in that potential very high margin mine situation in the future. So lots of people are interested in this project for that reason, and not forgetting, of course, the 20% in situ value of this project that comes from antimony, which makes it a very strategic and valuable asset by itself. But thank goodness the gold pays for it, and we say the antimony will help permit it, and it will be one of the larger antimony projects in the Western world and will play a very key role there.
I completely agree. Antimony is a very important thing for particularly the US defence. At the moment, there's not enough. But one of the key things I just want to go back to is this value that you're creating, where the current share price is now and where it can go to. And one of the things you said earlier in the interview, and I just want to focus on this, Fosterville, which is around the corner from us. And it was funded by the North Americans, and they did take 10 billion. And I'm not sure if that's AUD or Canadian dollars. It's only a 10% variant. So $10 billion of value out of that system. So currently Southern Cross, you're looking at around 750, 800 million market cap. So if you're looking in terms of value, if you do a comparable, we are hitting those high grade 1,000, I guess 3,000 grams worth of gold that Fosterville started to see. We're seeing that. We always wanted to be like Fosterville when we IPO'd. Buying the shares at these levels where you've got that valuation compared to how big the valuation could be, it's still a multi bagger. Like you're not talking, can we get 20%, 50% return here with the strike rate that you're having, and you have doubled those 100-meter gram intersections. The valuation is still very, very cheap, and I'm very pleased to hold on to as many shares as I can in Southern Cross because I think it is going to keep going. So thanks so much for all the work you've done, Mike. I'm pleased the team's staying on. There's no real major change from the management team, which is ever so important. Obviously, the asset doesn't change. It's still in the ground being drilled by the same team. So I think 2025 is going to be a very good year. You've got continued results. You've got the geophysics study for the bigger area that you're at. You've got potentially an upgrade to an exploration target coming, and then on the way to resource down the track. So a lot to happen. And with Victoria opening up at the end of last year in terms of government permitting those two mines and our area being in the green zone, it's looking really, really positive for Southern Cross Gold on all fronts.
It's a moment, Sean. Like I say, a very rare asset. It's early days in terms of the discovery, as you pointed out. It's got a strategic element, which is very important. And also remembering that Victoria is very much open for business, Sean. There was a strategic or a critical metals strategy that came out in December. They permitted 2 mines. The state permitted 2 mines in December. They've stated they want to permit at least 1 mine per year. Antimony is critical for Victoria, and they're setting up strategic metal zones, and antimony is at the top of their list. Antimony has been the second most important metal for 130 years in Victoria and still remains so after gold. So there's so many positives around this project as we continue the exploration early days. We're doing a lot of the pre-development work and de-risking, and from that point of view, the engineering, the metallurgy, the environmental side of things. There's a lot of good reasons as we continue to de-risk, but also expand this project that we're on the upward trajectory.
The gold price is going up, but you've even got that in your sales. It's not a lithium. The gold price is continuing to expand, but we've got such a big margin potentially when we do potentially get to mining that it's pretty safe. So Mike, continue the good work. Thank you very much. And I know you've got to get on the calls to Canada now because it is early in Australia and they're going to be wanting to know what's going on after that announcement last night with Mawson. So good luck and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sean.